Okay, I think it's time. Everybody ready?
Ready?
To make,
Yes.
make history? Ready to make history?
Yeah, we are.
New world.
Yeah, it is a new world. It's a new world.
Thumbs up.
Definitely.
I'd like to call to order the Town of McCandless meeting for April the 13th, 2020. Councilmember Kirk will lead the invocation and the Pledge of Allegiance.
Please bow your heads. Abba, Father God, together we pray for your grace upon this council, our town, country, and the entire world to sustain us all as we confront this coronavirus. We are grateful for the technology that allows us to restore some degree of normalcy to our community by safely gathering in this virtual meeting to conduct the work of our government on behalf of the people. We humbly ask you to guide us here tonight. Amen.
Amen.
Please join me now in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
To the flag
To the flag.
of the
United
United
States
States of America,
States of America.
and to the
To the
republic
republic
which it
for which
stands,
it stands,
stands
one
one
nation,
nation,
under
God,
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 indivisible,
indivisible,
with
with
liberty
liberty
and justice.
justice for all.
For all.
Well done.
All right. Well, first of all, I would like to thank everyone for joining us tonight using the Zoom meeting platform. We will be temporarily using video conferencing to continue the town business during the emergency declaration. It is our intent that this meeting format will allow us to use as much transparency as possible while maintaining our social distancing precautions. I'd like to start off with some announcements. First one is we will start advertising for our junior council member and immediately and do those interviews in May, we're hoping. Some of these dates, well, all of these dates are tentative since none of us know what the future holds, but we may be able to do those by Zoom too, but we're looking at that. We're also looking to try to interview the committee positions that people have applied for. So citizens, we know you sent in your applications a while ago. It's supposed to happen after 30 days, but we're going to get to it. We're looking toward May for that. I'd also like to announce that our land use administrator, Bruce Betty, has given his resignation for retirement, which is going to be effective this Friday, the 17th, after 25 years of service. There will be a formal recognition of his service sometime in the future. I'd also like to announce that the National Council for Home Safety and Security has ranked McCandless 31st out of 3,381 cities in PA as the safest cities in their safest cities in Pittsburgh. We're very proud of that ranking, and it is a token to our outstanding police department led by Acting Chief Hawk. There are no seminars or conferences. Nothing, everything's canceled. So is there a motion to approve the minutes submitted to each member of council for town council's meeting of March the 9th, 2020, as well as town council's emergency meeting of March 25th, 2020?
So moved.
Second.
So what I would like for you to do in the meeting, just to make things a little bit easier, is if you would say, I, Joanne Powers, so move, or Joanne Powers moves, and then Carolyn Swagger second, something like that, so we can kind of keep up with who's saying what, if you don't mind. So I think, Joanne, you made the motion?
I did. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. And second?
Chuck.
Chuck, okay. Okay, so this is going to be interesting. So what we're trying to do is allow for public comment. So we're going to open, RJ, not we, RJ is going to open up the microphone for anyone who would like to make general comments about anything that is on our agenda, or any comments. Now, save your comments for the public hearing, because we'll unmute the mics for the public hearing, after the public hearing, for comments specifically on that. But this time, and this is not how we normally do it, but this logistically, this worked out best, but we could figure out, and we may have to fine tune this and we may have to change it, but this is what we're going to try tonight. So right now, RJ, you are going to unmute citizens for comments on any agenda items.
Yes,
Kim, did
we've got Brian Danley up first.
Excuse me. So if any council members has a question or needs to make a comment, or Gavin, I think I heard you cutting in there. See where it says reaction at the bottom of your screen? Just hit that little hand. So in case I don't hear you, I can see that you need something and I can say, Gavin, what do you want to say?
Did you get a vote on the minutes?
No, thanks. Oh. Are you still here?
Who? I'm still here.
Okay. I just lost my screen.
We can see you.
We can see you.
Okay. I have host your Zoom meeting that's up here right now.
Perfect. Just the way we planned it.
Yeah, hold on. Oh, there you are. You're back. Good job, Gavin.
Didn't even have to do anything for that one.
Thanks. Okay. All right. Thanks, Gavin. You're right. I did blow past that. So we have a motion and accept and a second to accept the minutes from those meetings. Are there any questions or changes or additions that need to be made by council? Okay. Hearing none, all those in favor accept the minutes, please indicate by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Minutes are accepted. Okay, now all that stuff about people speaking. I'm sorry, RJ, go ahead.
Okay, so first up we had Brian Danley. So Brian, I am going to unmute your microphone now and turn on your camera.
Okay. Hopefully
And
you guys hear me.
I can hear you. I'm going to
Okay.
hit the start video button now, just so you're ready.
Okay. Looks like I have to hit something maybe.
You probably have to say yes. There you
Yeah.
go.
There you
Okay.
go.
All right. No, thanks for giving me a quick minute here just to talk. And I know a lot of you guys on the council are more than familiar with me, Bill and Bob and Bruce and Jason. But you know, my question or comment, I guess, is obviously around stormwater management, and specifically the lack of stormwater proper management in my situation, because I'm at the northern end of McCandless, Pine Township. You know, just as an example, we had that, you know, what wasn't much of a rain today. It was about a half-inch of rain over a number of hours, and the creek bed that runs by my house was, you know, basically at its limit at that point. And I know that, you know, this isn't just affecting me. This is affecting, I'm sure, people north of me, but also a lot of people downstream from me. You know, as like I said, Bill and Bob and Bruce and some other folks know, there's been, you know, a number of us that have been pretty vocal about needing something to be done about this, again, lack of stormwater management. Specifically right now, Wexford Station, which is the new development in Pine, off of 910 and Brennan Road. You know, as you guys know, I've filed complaints with the DEP, the ACCD. I've looped you guys in. Pine, I've tried to loop in. Senator Lindsey Williams, Turzai, et cetera. And I'm getting frustrated because hasn't been much, well, really any action yet. We've had a lot of good dialogue, but not action. And we're at the point where, you know, they're about ready to put on, you know, they're going to be putting rooftops and roads in up there at Wexford Station before we know it. And that's just going to compound things and make things even worse. So I guess my first comment is if there's money for bike lanes, walking trails, all this other stuff, there has to be room here for something to be done for a house like mine that's been here for over 100 years, to be saved from flooding, basically, because as more development's happening up north, my yard floods more and it's getting closer to my home. My house can't be forsaken for the sake of slapping up some houses to make a quick buck in neighborhoods upstream from me. So I guess my question is do we have any update as far as, what's Pine? I know, Bill, you and I have exchanged a number of emails, and I always appreciate your quick response. But I guess I'm just wondering, is anything happening with this? I know right now the coronavirus thing's kind of taken everybody's priorities, but, my priority is still saving my home. So do we have any update on any of this? As far as contacts with Turzai's office, Pine, any plan of action?
So this is a time for comments. So we're taking whatever comments that you may have. If you have any questions, you can send those to whoever you would like to address them to, but this is a comment time.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I haven't really
No,
attended
that's
many
okay.
of these.
We're just all trying to figure it out. No problem.
Yeah, my final comment is, and I'm probably beating a dead horse with some of these guys at this point, but something needs to be done sooner rather than later, because this is affecting more and more of us along Wexford Run Creek here, which obviously eventually dumps into Pine Creek. And, every development upstream from us that occurs without properly taking into consider stormwater management. And I know that they have policies and all this beautiful stuff in writing, but it's obviously not working. I'm seeing it with my own eyes, and so is a lot of us along the watershed. Something needs to be done sooner rather than later, and I guess that's my comment at this point. And I do appreciate and continue to appreciate any responses that I get. So thank you.
Thank you.
Madam President, this is Bob Grimm. If I may, Brian, I'll be in touch with you in the morning. I have a few updates that I can provide you that I've received over the course of the day, but ran out of time to send anything out. So I'll be in touch with you tomorrow morning.
Sounds good. Thanks, Bob.
Sure.
Next speaker.
Okay, next up, we have got Don Paul. Hope I said that right. Sorry if I didn't. I'm going to be unmuting now. Don, can you hear us?
I can hear you.
All right, I'm going to put
See
you on the
you.
screen
I can also
now.
see you.
There you are.
I just logged in to answer any questions council might have in regards to 8500 Run Road.
We're going to have the public hearing.
This already has a public hearing.
All right, so we are doing the wrong one. No, we're not doing that public hearing right now. I think this is a comment time, so this is not a time for questions on this. But when we get to the vote for this, I think that would be a time when, if council had any questions, that we could ask you.
Okay, great.
And
Okay.
Don, if you, I'm going to mute you for now, but if at that time, if council's fine with it, I'll just unmute your microphone so you're available if they call on you.
Okay, great. Thank you.
right.
Thank you, Don. Next person, Trish, RJ.
That is everybody. That's everyone we had signed up.
Okay. All right. All right. Thank you. Then we will close the public comment. And we'll move to number 7, which is the public hearing on the ordinance to authorize the conveyance of a right-of-way and channel easement to the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania for drainage work to be performed along Rochester Road. A vote on this ordinance is scheduled for April the 27th, 2020. I think you want to speak to this, Bob?
Yes, Madam President. Mark Sabina and I were approached by Anthony DiPietro from PennDOT concerning a project that they were going to undertake to address a slide area along Rochester Road, between Rochester Road and adjacent to Wall Park. Mark and I talked to Anthony, and we have a general sense of the work that's to be done. PennDOT is looking for an easement from the town in order to be able to undertake this work. We have 3 individuals from PennDOT here with us this evening. And I'd like to introduce George Danis, who is the chief negotiator with PennDOT, who can tell us a little bit more about the project and what they need from the town. RJ, if you can unmute George, that would be appreciated.
I've got their mics on now.
Okay.
And George, you're up on screen.
Yes, thank you. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for giving us the opportunity here. I have Anthony DiPietro, whose name was mentioned by Bob earlier, and also Dan Bliss from our geotech unit. Essentially, we're looking to make this slide repair, and it involves property owned by the town of McCandless that we would need to acquire some of it as required right-of-way, and then some additional area as a channel easement down by the stream. The required right-of-way, we would have a deed that would be executed so that we could acquire that property from the town of McCandless. We have requested through Bob that the town waive its rights to compensation, just as a in the spirit of intergovernmental cooperation. We're making the repair within the township limits. And so we're requesting a waiver of rights be signed, and then also the deed for the required right-of-way. This is an urgent project that we'd like to get online very soon. We'd like to advertise very soon. And so we appreciate your cooperation in that. If anyone has more technical questions as far as the areas involved and more about the construction, I think Dan Bliss, who, as I said, is also on the line, could probably better answer those.
I do have a question. This is Joanne Powers.
Okay.
That is in my ward, and I was wondering if this work will have any effect on the stream down in that area, because when we have heavy rains, that stream gets very, very high.
We're not doing any major work to the stream. We are going to armor the toe of the slope below the slide with rock to prevent erosion in the future. But that's what we need the channel easement for. But that's the extent of our work in the stream.
Okay, thank you very much.
So my, from looking at that on the, from the road and looking at that from the information that we got, am I correct that this is a very steep slope that would really not be usable by the town for anything, like not a path, not a walkway, not a bike lane? It's just super steep slope. Is that correct? Is that Bob, RJ, George, that is the topography?
Yes, by and large, you're correct, Kim. The property would not really be usable by the town, nor did we have any plans to do so.
Are there any questions or comments from anyone else on council?
Madam President?
Yes.
Just to, for clarity as well, it's my understanding that we are not actually the town would continue to own the land. We're simply being asked to give the right of way to PennDOT, permanent easement, if you will. But the town would still own, from what I read in the documents, the town would continue to own this property and be able to use it for any purpose they wanted to, as long as it didn't impede the work of PennDOT in the future. Is that accurate?
Well, that would apply to the channel easement area down by the stream, but the area that's shown as required right-of-way, we would actually acquire from the township.
Yeah,
And
they're taking ownership, Bill.
Oh,
yes,
okay. Okay.
and that would become part of the legal right-of-way of the road.
But George, if we chose to be able to cross that, say with a path towards Rochester, I'm assuming that we would still be able to do that with an with a required HOP permit.
Yes, I think it would be treated in the manner of any other HOP at that point, coming onto or across PennDOT right-of-way.
Okay. So in other words, just to follow up on what George just said, if we were to say put a path from Wall Park to Rochester Road, we would have had to work with the department on a highway occupancy permit for that connection point to Rochester Road. This would just expand that slightly to include the acquired right-of-way.
So we would have to have their permission.
We would have had to have their permission anyhow if we were connecting to Rochester Road at all. It will just change the extent of the permission that they grant.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other comments from council members?
Would this project affect the grant that we have for Sloop Park and some of the work we're going to be doing there? Is there any relationship with this project and that project?
No, it won't have any impact on the grant for the work at Wall Park.
Thank you.
If you don't mind, please say your name before you speak so everyone knows who's speaking.
Okay.
Thanks.
Bob, this is Joanne Powers. Am I correct in assuming this is behind Wall Park, correct?
You are correct.
Behind. Okay, all right.
Any other comments?
This is Trish Clunan, and I'm guessing from the map we've been provided, will there be any expansion of the road, or is this just to shore up the hillside next to the road?
It's basically just to shore up the road by the hillside. We do have this is Dan Bliss from PennDOT. We do have a very slight shift of the road. I think it might be 4 feet, just to kind of straighten it out a little bit while we're out there. But that's the extent of it.
Okay, thank you.
Any other comments or questions from council?
Okay, Joanne Powers. This is not going to create any additional problems on Rochester Road, is it? Because Rochester Road has many, many problems that we've dealt with for a very long time. And I'm just concerned that if you're changing, is this going to create more problems on the road?
This is Dan Bliss from PennDOT. I guess I need to know what you mean by problems. I mean, we're looking at this from fixing a slide in this area here, and we're also updating some drainage within the project limits. But I mean, we would see this as something that make the road more stable and prevent like a big failure in the future.
Okay, the point I'm making is a little further down Rochester Road by Stonebrook, we've had many problems with the road down there. And I'm just concerned that if we're changing the structure of that hill, if that won't create any more problem on Rochester Road?
No, I mean, we're basically fixing a localized problem here with our landslide repair. We did, I think if the other location is down by Passenger lane, our maintenance folks did do
yeah.
a repair there last year. We originally had that as part of this project, but they needed to fix it sooner than what we could here. So we cut that from the project. We are still replacing guide rail in that area, but it will be within our technical project limits. So if there would happen to be more issues there while we're out here working on the other slide, we would have the ability to get the contractor on board to try to fix any issues that happen there.
Okay, because my concern there is it took a very, very long time to get that work started and to trying to get it done. And I don't want to run into that kind of a problem again, because I've had a lot of people ask questions and call about that because they were so upset about the road. So I just don't want to run into that kind of a problem again.
Yeah, I mean, ideally, I think as soon as we get the right-of-way paperwork figured out for this, we should be able to advertise the project within a couple of weeks. And if we move quickly on it, we should be able to get the slide itself repaired this summer and into the winter, and then probably have to come back in the like this time next year to pave the road. But I think if everything goes smoothly, we should be able to have the slide itself repaired this year.
Okay, thank you.
Any other comments or questions from council? RJ, this would be the time to turn on to see if there's any public comment from citizens on this.
Yes. Okay. So anyone who is interested in providing public comment on the public hearing specifically that we're discussing right now, you can do the same thing. Type your name and address into the chat box and please specify public hearing comment. We are going to close the opportunity to sign up for this at 7:59 p.m.
I'd also like to, while people are doing that, to say that we are trying to get as much public comment as we possibly can on this item. So, well, any items that we do public hearing on in this format. So we're going to accept until Friday, April the 17th, until this Friday at noon, any other additional comments that people might have. And as this goes on our YouTube channel and on our Facebook page, anyone who sees this can still have some public comment. You would send that comment to administration@townofmccandless.org. So even if you don't make a comment tonight or you're not here on this format, you can still send your comments in. Those comments will be compiled and sent out to all council members, so we still will hear your opinion, and it will be part of all the information that we gather to make the decision at the next meeting, the voting meeting. Anyone, RJ, yet?
I do not see anyone yet.
Okay. And we have 1 more minute to wait. Okay. I have 7:59. Is that what you have, RJ?
Oh, yep, you're good.
Okay. All right. Thank you. We'll close the public hearing. Thank you, Dan, George, and Anthony for for being here and taking questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you.
Have a good evening.
You do the same.
Thank you.
Reports of committees. Councilmember Mazer, would you please do Finance and Personnel Committee, please?
Yes, this is Chuck Mazer, and I move to approve check listing number 3 dated February 1, 2020 through February 29, 2020, totaling $1,174,439.32 as submitted to each member of council and posted on a bulletin board and town website.
Is there a second?
Trish Clunin, I second.
Okay. Any comments or questions from any council member? All right. Hearing none. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
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 Oh, do we need to, Gavin,
Yes.
do we need to, we can just say aye for this? We don't have to raise hands or anything? Is aye good enough as long as there's no nays?
Correct. Yes.
Okay, okay. All those opposed? Motion carries. Number 2, Chuck?
This is Chuck Mazer. Review the check listing number 4 dated March 1, 2020 through March 31, 2020, totaling $1,128,705.70 as submitted to each member of council and posted on the bulletin board and town website. Everybody has this listing in their packet of information. Are there any comments or any questions?
Is there a second to adopt this?
Not a motion.
Joanne
Ken.
Powers, second.
Okay. Are there any comments or questions from any council members on this? Hearing none, all those in favor of accepting the check listing indicate by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries.
Okay, number 3, Chuck Mazer again, review the monthly financial summary and dashboard report. These reports were in your packet of information that everyone has received. Are there any questions or comments on them?
This is Bill Kirk. Chuck, yeah, I have a question. In reviewing it, it looks like we are doing well on our finances, our budget this year, if it was a normal year. Just prior to this meeting, I came from our McCandless Franklin Park Ambulance Authority meeting, and their revenues are significantly off. Now, I know I read in the report that our finance person and also our manager are looking for ways to cut. I would just want to accentuate that issue and just say that, you know, the sooner we find ways to start reducing our expenses, the easier it will be. From what I was seeing over there, and they're kind of the leading edge of this, because they're seeing it. It's going to be dramatic, and you know, after reviewing our budget, about $10 million of our annual operating budget comes from sources that are directly linked to the economy, and so we have and we're spending down reserves that were from 2018 in our capital budget this year. I guess my point is I would certainly prefer to avoid deferring important road capital projects to solve this crisis if we can. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, any other comments or questions? Okay, item number 4, again, Chuck Mazer. Chuck Mazer moved to adopt resolution number 6 of the 2020 series, a resolution approving the application of Michael Sneedelbach to acquire vacant lot 713-H-93 adjacent to his property on Whitmer Road under the Allegheny County Vacant Property Recovery Program as adopted by the town.
This is Bill Kirk. I second the motion.
Okay, Bill seconded. Any comments or questions on this? We've already done a couple of these. Is there any questions on this? Comments? Hearing none, all those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Councilman Mazur. Zoning Committee, a motion to adopt ordinance 1496, an ordinance amending the zoning district of certain property located at 8500 Thompson Run Road, also identified as block and lot number 717J216, from C7 Office Building District to R3 Townhouse and Garden Apartment District, and amend the town's zoning map accordingly. A public hearing was held on March 9th, 2020. Is there a second?
This is Joanne Powers. I have a question before we take a vote. Has consideration been taken what the additional traffic effect would be on that Duncan Avenue, Thompson Run intersection, which is already a very, very busy intersection? So has there any?
Once there's a site plan submitted, there will have to be a traffic report, a traffic study also done then. So this is about change.
Okay.
Right. This is about changing the zoning of that area, but the site plan would address traffic, any traffic issues.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Can we have a second for this? If we're going to have a second for this, and then we can take any more questions or comments.
Second, Chuck Mazur.
Okay. Okay. Any further questions or comments about this changing in zoning?
Madam President, Bill Kirk.
Yes.
I know that at our public hearing, we heard a lot of concerns raised by individuals, Mr. Du Bois, Mr. Bigler, Ms. Boley, Mr. Mascari, Ms. Wenzel, regarding traffic, what Councilwoman Powers brought up, but also security for the adjoining properties. And I had a chance to review, and I appreciate it. I received the packet that I think was presented to the Planning Commission. That was very insightful and helpful. One of the things I want to understand is when we discussed this at the public hearing, it was presented that we were down zoning from a commercial C7 use to a residential R3 use. And on its face, that sounds like this development would be less impactful than the eventual commercial development of the site. And I'd just like to get some more insight into that before moving forward with a vote on this rezoning. I'd like to make sure that we're protecting the property owners adjacent. And so I'd like to understand a little more the impact. I saw that these are not actually townhouses, but I guess more like apartment building townhouses, I guess, if you will, garden apartments, I think they're called, 3-story units. The other question I had that concerns me, and this is the adjoining setbacks on either property that's not being rezoned. I'd like to just clearly understand that how this will impact the setback requirements of those property owners. For instance, the commercial property to the left of the site, facing it from the front, currently I think requires a 25-foot setback, given the current zoning of C7. If that changes to R3, will that property owner then be required to provide a 100-foot setback on their land, which they currently own and operate on? And I'd like to know, the same would go for the Beth Shalom property, the temple on the other side. How would those setbacks how would those property owners be protected from us inadvertently doing a de facto taking on their sites? Those are my two questions. And I'm so glad Mr. Poole's here tonight that could maybe shed some light on this, as well as RJ.
RJ, do you want to address that?
Yes, let me hop on here. All right. So regarding the zoning going from C7 to R3, you know, at this point, it's only just a concept plan that's submitted, so I can't guarantee necessarily, you know, what exactly the traffic plan would be. Like, you know, we referred to, that's all things that get reviewed in the site plan. I can take a quick look if you just give me a second at the zoning ordinance that I'm quickly becoming familiar with for the setbacks from one property to another. I did do some research on the buffer yards, which were a question that was brought up earlier. So if that is, part of the questioning right now, I can pull that up. So, okay, so that's part of what you're looking for. Okay, 1 second. I have it on my computer, but I'm running the Zoom meeting on here too. So let me just grab another device. So the way that we do our buffer yards it sort of depends on which zoning district it abuts. And also there are variable depths essentially, or widths, I guess you could say, of how large the buffer yard is. It's kind of flexible. It depends on, again, the final development. But since we have a couple different zoning districts that abut, we've got institutional, we've got C3, and then there is up above another residential plan that would be bordered by whatever would be developed there. So essentially there's a really significant buffer yard depth and density between a residential and a C7 that goes down a bit, but again, that residential property is, there's a pretty significant height difference, so that shouldn't really change the impacts there. Regarding institutional, the buffer yard is slightly more dense for the R3 district when it abuts versus C7, but there's not a ton of difference. It would be a minimum depth of either 10 feet with C7 or 15 feet with R3, and just basically one extra tree per 100 linear feet. Regarding the abutment of the C3 property, with a C7, there's very little requirement for an additional buffer yard beyond, a rear yard setback or a side yard setback. Whereas with a residential property, there is a more significant buffer yard that would be between 20 to 50 feet, depending on, what the developer selected and what was approved. There would be significant buffering with what we refer to as canopy trees, understory trees, lots of shrubs, evergreens per 100 linear feet. If you give me just a second, I can double check. I believe that the rear yard setback is 50
I might be able to save you a little bit of all of this because I don't know about everyone else, but my mind has just left me with all those numbers.
Sorry.
Am I the only person? Okay, I could be.
I agree. I agree.
Thank you. Okay, good. It's not just me. So I think, and Bill, please, if I'm wrong, but I think the question is, if we change this zoning, is it going to put responsibility on the adjoining property to have to make changes in their buffering and cost them maybe some of their property or more money in putting in a buffer zone? I think, am I right, Bill? That's the question.
Spot on. Thank you.
Okay.
Sorry
Okay.
for
So
a bit then.
Okay. No. I appreciate all the numbers, but
We just want to know. We just want to know how this is going to impact the other properties around.
ta-da.
If I could comment.
Is that Don?
Please say your name so we know who's speaking.
Don Pohl.
Okay, thank you.
Comment. I believe those properties would be grandfathered in and that the zoning's being changed, but I'm not 100% sure of that. As far as the buffer yards go.
I was wondering that myself.
Yeah, it's our intention to put buffer yards in anyway. We don't want to look, these units certainly want to be buffered from the temple and also Mr. Mascari's auto body. But and to correct something you said, Bill, these are definitely going to be townhouses. They're not garden apartments.
Okay.
Our layout is for 23 or 24 townhomes. They're 3 stories, but they're townhomes probably around 2,000 square feet each without the lower level. So
I was thinking they were
all about the
grandfathered
buffer.
I was thinking they were grandfathered in too, but RJ, you would know that or could find out about that.
Yeah, I could definitely do some research. I will say, since I've only been here for a little bit of time, I'll certainly double check. Typically my experience is that it's incumbent upon the developer to meet the requirements for developing a property, it is not typically incumbent upon the neighbors to address a change in development of an adjacent.
Right, yeah, we would be all about that. With
So,
the buffer yard in our units, I believe the way our layout is, our preliminary layout, our closest unit is 35 feet from a property line, but a lot of them are much more than that. Facing the temple, I believe it's around 35 feet. And then on Mascari's property, the back of the building is, I think, at the shortest distance, 40, and then another building is probably 60 or 70 feet from the Mascari property line.
but you see, our
To put in a buffer.
But our concern is, of course, putting more, maybe a hardship on surrounding property owners, I think is what.
Well,
Bill's going.
you know, we would do that as a developer. I mean, we could, we'll put the buffer yard in.
I guess, Madam President, if I may, so the point I'm trying to get to here to understand is, if the temple comes along 2 or 3 years later to expand a parking lot, or if the adjacent owner on the other side comes along and wants to add a section to the garage, and they suddenly find out that they can't do it because their required buffer now, because they're now beside an R3 site, has expanded to 100 feet instead of what they were at. That's honestly where I'm at. And if that's, and I'd like to know that that's grandfathered before we take a vote on this, is kind of where I'm at.
So I see a name up here that said Bruce's iPad. Is that our Bruce, or is that a different Bruce?
I believe that's our Bruce, if you'd like me to unmute him.
I think he might just have a little answer to this.
Yeah.
Let's unmute him. Bruce, are you there? You dressed?
I'm not there yet. Am I here yet?
We can hear you. You ready to have your video turned on?
So,
Yeah, go
Bruce,
ahead.
did you hear the question, Bruce?
Yes, I did.
Do you have the answer, Bruce?
Well, you know what? My answer would be, why isn't Gavin chiming in on this?
Gavin, what are you doing?
My answer is that it is definitely grandfathered, but I believe Bill's question, and Kim, you're following along very well with the same question, is suppose it is grandfathered, right? So Denny then wants to put on another addition parallel or equidistant to the property line. Is that grandfathered also? I would say no, it has to be a variance. But Gavin, if you would fill that in, that would be great.
I couldn't have said it better, Mr. Betty. Yeah,
I know you could have.
That's exactly right. I mean, any existing improvements are pre-existing non-conforming uses. You wouldn't have to make any changes, but future development on the neighboring properties would have to comply with whatever the then existing zoning requirements are. So, you know, again, I haven't done the full analysis as to, you know, exactly what the increases in the buffers are. I mean, I know that for an R3, there's not a significant increase or not significant setbacks when they're adjacent to non-R1 and non-R2 properties, but I haven't looked at the inverse as to, you know, C3 or whatever the neighboring commercial district is, how that the kind of buffer that has to have for an R3. So if you're saying it's 100 feet, Bill, I haven't looked at that, but if that's true, it could impact future development on a neighboring property.
I've got the relevant zoning code right here. If you want me to go ahead and read off.
Only if it's in English.
Yeah, I know. Sorry.
Okay.
So if you're looking at side yards for an R3 parcel, when it's abutting anything that isn't R1 or R2, it's a 25-foot minimum setback. And for a rear yard, basically, you know, a commercial district, it would be a 20-foot minimum setback. Now, if you're looking at C7, a rear yard or side yard abutting any other zoning district that isn't residential is a 10-foot minimum setback. So it's a difference of about 10 to 20 feet.
Now, but that's not the setback on the other side. We're looking at the other side, not their side, not Mr. Pohl's side. We want how it's going to affect the other side, because if the institution, which is the one Bill is talking about, if they have to have a setback now of 25 feet, that's the side we're looking at. We're not looking at the pole side, we're looking at the other side. So
I
if that, you see what I'm saying? We're not talking about pole.
Yeah, that I would agree with the grandfathering. So that's
Okay,
all three of us.
but the question, okay, so we all agreed on the grandfathering, but the question is if that setback goes from 25 feet to 100 feet, they're grandfathered in now. But what if 5 years from now, they want to expand a parking lot to get back to that 25 feet? They have to have a variance?
Right. I mean, I'm looking at the I district just because I know that's one of the adjacent properties is the I, and the an I district that abuts a residential property has a 100-foot minimum front, rear, and side yard width.
What, and Counselor, this is Bill Kirk, what would that requirement be abutting I guess it was a C7 district?
So what, I think, RJ, do you have the C7 numbers up in front of you? I'll flip through if you don't.
Yeah, I've got, give me just 1 second. All right. And what exact
Bruce,
requirement are we looking at for
Bruce,
this
if
one?
you're still here, you can chime in. I know you know this.
I don't remember the C7 to I, but it's probably somewhere around 20 feet, 25 feet, something like that.
So it's about the same?
No, it's the reverse is what you and Bill are talking about, and RJ is talking about. The reverse is what we're looking at. So it's 100 feet down to 20 to 25 feet. So there's like a 75 or 80 foot difference. And I don't know, RJ, did you find that I to C7?
We would be looking at in the I district right now. I've got
Right,
C7 up, but
right.
I can flip there as quickly as possible. Unless Gavin's got it already.
Yeah, that's what I just went through, the I district.
And what is an I to C7?
An I to non-residential property is 30 feet. An I to residential property is 100 feet.
Okay, so there's a 70 foot difference.
Yeah.
What is it, Gavin, on the C7 to the residential with side yard?
C7.
Which is what Mascary's is, right, Bruce?
Mascary's is a C3.
C3. Okay, that's C3 to
C3 to R3. We need C3 to R3, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Front yard, 100 feet. Rear yard, 100 feet. Rear yard and side yard, 100 feet.
Gavin, could you also look at C3 to C7, just so we can understand what the difference would be?
Right, that's the question.
Sure. C3 to C7 would be, instead of R3 would be 100 feet, C3 would be 60 feet.
So there's a 40 foot difference.
40 foot.
For the front yard, right?
For the front yard, right.
The rear yard is just 10 feet or side yard.
Right, correct.
Yes.
The side yard is 10 feet.
From C3 to C7.
A C3 requires 10-foot buffer against an R7. I'm sorry, against the C7. I'm sorry, yeah, against the C7. And it requires 100 feet on the side. When that C7 becomes an R3.
Correct.
That's a 90-foot difference.
Right.
Okay, that's my point. So is there a way to protect these folks from losing their property rights there?
Well, can I suggest one option would be, I don't know that anyone's actually done these measurements against the site plan or even a conceptual site plan to look at the new setbacks and how they would impact the adjacent properties. So maybe it makes sense for me and Bob and RJ and Bruce, if he's still willing. I think he's still working a little bit more. To take another look at that and then maybe present council with some overlays, just kind of showing the potential impact to see, if for practical purposes, if it is going to negatively impact them.
Does Bob, excuse me, Bill, would you, are you interested in tabling this motion? It seems like that's where we're headed. Is that where we're headed?
Madam President, at this point, I think that'd be a great idea. I'd really like to support this development in the town, but I want to do it in a responsible way, that's all.
Okay. Would you make that motion to table this?
I'd like to move to table this motion.
Angela
There's
Woods,
a
second that.
Okay, all right. Put things down. And so this was Bill and Angela. Okay. This will be, all right, so we'll table this pending some of those overlays to get some more insight on these buffers. All right?
The buffers.
The buffers.
It's a buffer overlay we need.
I think that's what, yes, that's
So
what.
we've been buffered.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, it all makes sense. I think the temple is, I don't think they can expand much. I think they're within 40 feet, 30, 40 feet of the property line right now. And Mascari, I'm not sure how far off he is, but yeah, it makes sense.
Okay, great.
All
Oh,
right.
good.
Thank you.
Good. Oh, no, thank you very much.
All right. have a
Madam
good day.
President, I believe we need to vote on that yet.
Yes, we do. Is there any other comments, though? That's it. Thank you, Mr. Pohl. All those in favor to table this motion, please indicate by saying aye.
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 Opposed? The motion is tabled. Okay, number 2. Move to adopt resolution number 7 of the 2020 series, a resolution applying the pending ordinance doctrine and hereby making immediately effective an ordinance amending Part 13 Planning and Zoning Code of the Codified Ordinances of the Town of McCandless to amend the definition of the distributed antenna system and stealth technology to add facilities and micro wireless communication facilities to amend and add special provisions regarding small wireless communication facilities, including timing of review, fees, design, and siting.
Madam President, this is Bill Kirk. I second the motion.
Thank you. So what this nice little pending ordinance doctrine, the way this works is that when we're working on an ordinance, we can say, oh, we have an ordinance that's in the works, so you can't, the small format people can't come in right now while we're working on that document and then just kind of be exempt from having to comply with that. So what this does is just a nice safeguard that we can do that doesn't allow that to happen. So it gives us a little bit more control. So that's what this is about. Did I do okay with that, Mr. Solicitor?
Yes, you did.
Thank you. Okay. Any questions or comments about what this? It's awfully long. What it means or?
Madam President, Bill Kirk,
Yes.
just
Yes.
one comment. I will add that our technology committee did review this concept and provided valuable input and created a pretty good draft document that I'm very comfortable with right now.
We look forward to that coming forward. All right. Any other comments? All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Councilmember Swagger, Public Safety Committee.
Okay, everyone has received the report from Acting Chief Ryan Hawk. I guess, was there any questions or comments from that? I know I wanted to mention, Ryan and them have been doing a really good job with everything, trying to keep up with our needs that have jumped up in the last few weeks on hand sanitizer and Lysol wipes, but pretty much everything's been pretty calm and quiet.
Councilwoman Swigert, one quick question. I was really happy to see us moving up in the rankings on the safety, and I went and linked on to the methodology that was used. It looks like it's using 2018 data from the FBI. Is that right? I wasn't.
No idea where they're collecting this data.
The reason I went back to look was to see how we had jumped from the previous year. And when I was checking, I saw that it was it looked to me like 2018. I like to know just for future reference, and also I'd like to find out how we've improved from the previous year, which I think was a bad year.
Is Ryan on? Is he able to answer this?
I will unmute him if he's still here. Ah, all right.
Can everybody
Ryan, your
hear me?
mic should be on. I'm going to turn your video on if that's all right.
Certainly.
Okay.
Hello,
Hello.
Whoa.
folks. Yeah, Mr. Kirk, to answer your question, it does look like the most recent data here indicates that they used 2018 statistics. So I imagine that next year it'll be 2019. They must be a year behind in their data collection. I'm looking here to see if they give a reason why. Like I said, it just mentions here, I have a printout from it, and it just mentions that, and it's probably what you were looking at, the national, well, wait. It references 2018. It doesn't say at least from what I have. It looks like everything that they reference here says 2018. Why that is, I do not know. I'll dive a little deeper into this.
Thank you,
I
Chief.
hope that for 2019 we'll be even better than 31.
Well, that was the point I was about to make. Was the important thing isn't where the dot is today, but it's where it's trending, and that's why
Right.
that's what caused me to go in and look. I was anxious to see where we were trending from and where we're trending towards, and that would be really valuable information. Thank you.
Absolutely agreed.
Thank you.
Any
other questions?
This is Joanne Powers. I just want to make a comment. From what I've read, I just want Chief to know that I'm very impressed and happy to see the good job that the officers are doing.
Thank you, ma'am.
I just think that they should be commended.
I'll certainly pass your message. These are trying times for everyone, and we're making many adjustments, as Carolyn could tell you folks, and probably has, and Mr. Grimm, to try to keep the town safe, and also at the same time balance that against trying to do right by the officers. Certainly unprecedented times.
Well, I was very impressed the report that you gave, the two officers that helped the gentleman did he have a heart attack or whatever happened with him? That I was very impressed with the work that they did.
Yeah, I'm proud, ma'am. That track was supposedly closed there at the intermediate high school, and my officers hopped the fence, administered aid, as you can see from the report there, shocked the man back, and provided CPR until the medics arrived on scene. And shortly thereafter, the medic come out and spoke to my officers and said that you two saved his life. And the last we had heard that evening, he was getting heart catheterization at Passman, I believe, an area hospital anyway. That's what they train for, and I'm glad to see that they were able to bring this gentleman back.
Well, it certainly makes you feel proud to be part of McCandless. Thank you.
Certainly, ma'am. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ryan.
Thank you, Carolyn. Any questions from anyone else? It was a lengthy report. We've been busy in many other ways, even if the calls are down slightly. We're staying busy there.
Thank you.
So Carolyn, let me help you with this next one a little bit. It's a little mixed up. So the next motion that's on our agenda is not really the motion. It's a little mixed up. So what the motion is supposed to be, I I have here what the motion is supposed to be. It got transcribed incorrectly. Bob, I'm going to make an attempt at this, but back me up.
Sure thing.
Okay, so I believe what it is supposed to say is the motion is to adopt the amended ordinance of number 1497, an ordinance establishing a 25-mile-an-hour speed limit in Ruston Acres plans of lots on Hedgewick Drive. Nope, even that part is wrong.
Yeah, that's
Ruston
the old-
Acres plan, that should all be off.
Can,
To include Ruston Way and
Ridgecrest.
let's just say the Ruston Acres plan. How's that?
Do you want me to, if you don't mind, I
Go
can
ahead.
read it?
Go ahead. But all three versions I have are wrong.
Okay.
Yeah, same here.
Move to adopt
be-
ordinance number 1497, an ordinance establishing a 25-mile-an-hour neighborhood speed limit on Ridgecrest Point and Ruston Way in the Ruston Acres plan of lots and on Hedwig Drive from Babcock Boulevard to
No.
Parkview Drive.
No, those aren't the roads. That's the problem. Those aren't the roads.
No.
Those are two different areas. Ridgecrest Drive, Ridgecrest Point and Ruston Way are in the Ruston Acres plan. There's another area, Hedwig Drive from Babcock to Parkview, Parkview Drive to Ridgewood Drive, and Parkview Drive to Ridgewood Drive. Those would be the roads.
So those are all not part of Ruston Acres. But it's-
They're in two different locations in the town. There's a,
Should they all be included in the same ordinance?
yeah, it can be.
Oh,
Okay. And did we want to amend that to that taking off the last part that's in that
Yeah,
section
and-
C?
If we get a motion, do we have a motion? We have a second?
Bill Kirk, so moved.
All right. Okay, so now that we have a motion and a second, the discussion is that it needs to be amended, right, in section 3?
Yes, I'd like to recommend an amendment under section 3 so that we make sure that we conform with the vehicle code. Like to have section 3 read as any person violating the speed limit established by this ordinance shall be subject to a fine as prescribed by section 3362 of the vehicle code as amended, period. The remainder of that section as it had been published and submitted to you folks would be deleted.
Madam President, Bill Kirk, I move to adopt the amended motion.
I
very
second
Trish Clunan,
Joanne
second. Trish Clunan, in speaking with residents of Hedwig Drive and Parkview, I know they have been interested for a very long time to have an established 25-mile-per-hour speed limit in their neighborhood.
Okay, there's been a motion and a second for the amendment to the motion. Are there any more comments? Okay, all those in favor of amending the motion indicate by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Okay, the amendment carries. Gavin, do we have to vote on the whole thing now?
I think that's probably the cleanest way because you had a motion, then you have an
Yeah.
amendment to the motion. So why don't we do ultimately a vote to adopt the ordinance as amended?
Okay, all right, that's what I was thinking. Okay, is there a motion to adopt the ordinance as amended?
Bill
Trish
Kirk, so
Clunan
moved.
moved.
Oh, sorry.
It's okay.
All right, Trish and Bill.
Thank you.
All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Opposed? All right, motion carries. Okay, good job.
My apologies for the confusion.
Okay, Councilmember Woods, Public Works.
You all received the Public Works Activity Report in your packets. Does anyone have any questions or comments?
All right, thank you, Councilmember Woods. Councilmember Kirk, Services Committee.
Item 1, Fire Marshal's report for the month of February 2020 and the permit report for March 2020. Is Fire Marshal Stack online?
Has everyone reviewed that? Are there questions for him?
Okay. Do you want me to unmute him now?
Yes, please.
Okay.
I think if they're just questions, I think we're taking questions. Is that what we're doing?
We are. I'd also like Fire Marshal Stack to just provide us with a brief update on emergency services planning.
Good evening, everybody. Can everybody hear me okay?
Yes. Dan, do you want your video on?
That's up to you guys if you want to see me or not.
I'll put you on. All right, we got you.
We got you. Okay, well, thank you very much. Yeah, I believe you have my report. If anybody has any questions on the month of February, again, just another busy month as usual. That's when things started to ramp up here. But if there's anything specific, I'd be happy to take them.
Fire Marshal Stack, one comment
Sure.
on the report. This is Bill Kirk. I did note that a lot of the call volume is down, as it is with the ambulance authority currently, but nonetheless a busy year.
You're absolutely right. Yes, sir. Yeah, we continue to run a lot, but within the next month or so is when all the COVID responses started to ramp up, and our calls gratefully, kind of did drop off. So it was equaled out a little bit, I guess you could say.
Fire Marshal Stack, could you give us a quick update on your emergency planning?
Oh, absolutely. Sure. Well, thank you very much. Again, so I just want to give a quick update as to the emergency management, the Office of Emergency Management. So my team and we meet every other day during the week. And my team consists of, we have members of UPMC Passman Hospital. We have a member of the Allegheny Health Network, the new hospital that's over off of McCandless Crossing. I have Chief McGinnis from Franklin Park EMS, Chief Hawk and Lieutenant Basil, Superintendent Mark Sabina. We have a member of the North Allegheny School District, Trish Clinton, too many Trishas now. Trish Greathouse, obviously Town Manager Grimm, and then we have Jeff Frazier as well as RJ on the emergency management team. And as I said, we meet every other day. We go through a variety of different things. We have presented with a daily situation report provided to us from the Allegheny County Department of Emergency Services, and we look at the current situations and any unmet needs throughout the town, any of the other departments in the area that may need assistance or anything like that, and we kind of address them from there. So we've been pretty adamant as far as meeting and kind of moving forward with a lot of things. We're very fortunate. We don't have a whole lot of incidents that we have to deal with as far as any of the unmet needs, but we're keeping on with a lot of the current situations to make sure that we don't have any surprises. So we seem to be in pretty good shape for all things considered.
Thank you. Does anyone on council have any questions for Fire Marshal Stack at this time? Thank you. It's certainly reassuring, I know, to our public to know that this type of sit-rep exercise is going on a continued basis, and appreciate your efforts. I know you're fairly new in the role of emergency management for the town, and I appreciate your efforts.
Yeah, thank you very much. It's an honor, and that is a pleasure to serve the community as we are.
Very good. Item 2, code enforcement violation complaint statistics report for the month of February 2020. Again, this report has been provided to everyone in their package. I'd ask at this time if any questions from council on the report.
No.
Okay, hearing none. Then item 3, I move to appoint Jeffrey A. Frazier as the building code official for the town, effective immediately.
Carolyn Schweiger
Joanne
seconds.
Coward.
All right.
The item has been moved and seconded. Are there any questions on the motion or any discussion? Mr. Grimm, do you have any comments?
This is a position that Bruce Betty held for years because of his certifications. Felt that because Jeff has the all of the certifications necessary, that Jeff should take on that role. RJ will serve as a zoning officer, so we'll have a check and balance system set up within this framework, and there'll be backups for Mr. Frazier with Dan Stack and with Jeff Shaneman from a code standpoint. So I think we're.
Thank you. Are there any questions on this matter? If not, I'll call the vote. All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Congratulations, Jeffrey Frazier. I don't know if you're online, but congratulations. And Madam President, that concludes my Services Committee report.
Thank you. Councilmember Clunin, Recreation Committee.
Like everybody else, there's been quite a bit of unknown in terms of our recreation program for this year. There has been discussion about amending the contracts with kind of a statement saying that everything may change pending orders from the governor and with the town and school district's approval. As of this moment, the committee has decided to delay for the time being sending contracts to those employees. The fear is that we wouldn't have the participants we needed because we wouldn't be able to advertise in the schools. And now that the governor has shut down the schools for the remainder of the school year, that is a very real concern of the committee. There has not been a final decision on the recreation program for this year, but I expect it to be decided on within the next 2 weeks.
Any questions? Is there any unfinished business?
I'm not sure. This is Trish Clunin. I just wanted to let you know that we have begun work on a food distribution for our.
That we're going to talk about that under new business.
Oh, okay, sorry.
Okay, that's okay. That's okay.
Yes, that's I'm moving ahead.
That's all right. That's all right. Anything under any other unfinished business? Okay, all right. We can go into new business now. We can start with the food share. We're just kind of calling it that tentatively. I think I've sent out information to everybody on that, and it sounds like the people who've gotten back with me have been supportive of that, and are there couple of things I wanted to go over. One was we were talking about maybe a name for it. And Bob was also talking about some kind of slogan that kind of went with our Corona updates, and a slogan maybe that we used with all things kind of associated with this hard time. And we came up with some, and I want to hear what you all think. If we're going to just call them McCandless Cares or Food Share or Corona Update or something like A Heart to Help, not for ourselves. These were some ones that I came up with. If you like these or have one of your own, just a name that maybe we could, the one I liked was stepping up, McCandless Stepping Up, and then you could follow it with like McCandless Stepping Up to fight against COVID, to help neighbors, to keep you informed, something like that. But some other ones I had, and like I said, please, I'm just gonna give you these and then open up for your comments on this title. Another one, the good we do, a hand up. You're not alone, reaching out a hand, not for ourselves only. Bob like a heart to help. Anybody have any ideas on what you'd like to call this?
Joanne Powers, I like the one that says McCandless Shares.
McCandless Shares?
Yes.
Cares, C-A-R-E-S?
No, Shares, S-H-A-R-E-S.
Okay, okay. All right. Anyone else?
Trish Clunin, I also like the idea of McCandless Shares, mainly for the reason why a lot of families are finding themselves in a position they've never been in before. And for some of these families, it's hard to say out loud to themselves or to anyone else, I need help. But sometimes it's a little easier when you feel like it's sharing from your neighbors than getting help from somebody.
Okay. Is everybody okay with that? Do we want to call this kind of food distribution McCandless Shares? Any?
Or Joanne Powers, or we could say McCandless Cares and Shares. You know, going along with what Trish just said, you know, as far as people having a hard time admitting that they need help.
Okay. All right, any input on that? Do we want that? Somebody want anything else? We want that? All right, so what do you McCandless Cares and Shares?
Yes.
Bob, what do you think?
That works.
Chuck may have been muted, just a heads up.
Sorry, Chuck, did you have something to say? I'm sorry.
No, just McCandless Shares and Cares.
Okay,
Cares
you like
and
that?
Shares. Yes.
Okay, all right, Cares and Shares. Okay, that's the new name.
Okay.
Trish, did you have a bag report?
Yeah, I do have a bag report, and I want to say thank you to the Giant Eagle McIntyre Square, who, without any hesitation at all, offered to provide us with our supply of shopping bags for the event. Thanks to Giant Eagle McIntyre.
Thank you. So everybody has this this kind of proposal in front of you. So are there any comments about it or changes about it or anything that you want to go over? I think we were planning on like a week to advertise, 2 weeks to collect, continue advertising while we're collecting, and then have the food distribution on the 4th week.
I'm sorry, the 4th week of what?
The 4th week from whenever we decide to start. That's what we're going to decide now.
Okay. I'm sorry. Okay.
Yeah, no, that's fine. We could start advertising this week and then start collecting next week if we wanted to, and collect the next 2 weeks, and then it would be 4 weeks from now, then we could plan a distribution. I hate to drag it out too far. Carolyn made a good point of, you know, people are still waiting on a lot of their benefits to start. And so they've been out of work for a couple of weeks, and a lot of the people haven't been able to get signed up for their benefits. I'm hearing that's a big problem. So we'd like to get it going as soon as possible. Your thoughts?
Madam President.
Could we collect food for 1 week? I'm sorry, Bill.
Sorry, go ahead, Hazel.
Could it be possible to collect food for 1 week? If we're going to continue to collect it, it wouldn't slow down the collection, but we maybe get it distributed a little sooner.
Okay. Okay, so that collection would be like a Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and then we could distribute it the next week. Are you thinking about maybe doing another collection after that, or just see how this one goes first and then?
Wait and see how it goes, and maybe just see where we're at just overall with the whole situation. And
okay.
Maybe if we need to do another drive, we can do one then.
Okay, okay.
So this is Joanne Powers. So would we ask people to bring food to the town hall?
Yes, I'm sorry. Did you get that? I sent it out to everyone on the whole schedule and the agenda and how it would work. And just a short summary of that is that we would leave the front doors open and close that second set of doors that's kind of under that little drive-by place, and the people could leave their non-perishables in there. We'd lock that down, let it cool down for 24 hours, and then have volunteers with their protective equipment bring it out of that area, after it had time for, all the, cool down is what we call it. I don't know what anybody else calls it. Cool down time on the things that people bring. And then those volunteers would separate, check expiration dates, and, put all the corn in one place, and then once we've done all the collection and sorting, then volunteers would come in and fill the bags, and then we would set the bags out. It's great detail on how to maintain social distancing and still be able to do a food distribution.
That was why I was presenting the question. That was my concern, how we were going to do that and still, remain 6 foot apart.
Well, maybe, I'm sorry you didn't get that, but we can send that to you. But it's there's a great amount of detail in it just for that purpose. We want everyone to stay safe. We of course thought of that and built that into this program because that's of course vital.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Thanks.
Sure. Any other questions?
Madam President,
yes.
Just the only thought I had, and I kind of hope I'm right about this, but we live in an amazing community. I just wasn't sure the staging area might be adequately sized to support all the donations once we open the floodgates, and just make sure that somewhere in there's a contingency to provide additional staging area. That's my only comment. I thought it was a great point.
I hope you're right. I hope you're right. I hope that's the problem we have. I hope you're right.
Okay.
All right. We'll have to get a contingency plan for that. So any other suggestions or ways to improve this? Or
this is Chuck Mazer. Could we maybe expand it slightly to include gift cards for food?
I don't think we want to get involved with taking money. What we did include here is that people could order online and have the food sent to the town. If you wanted to order something on Amazon, or if you wanted to, do something like that. But I don't think we want to get into, I think we just want to do non-perishables. That's more than I want to get into. I don't want to start handling money.
Yeah, that does make sense.
Yeah, it's a good idea, and maybe in the future we could, and if this really got big, maybe people could do gift cards, and then we could have other people go shopping and buy more things of whatever we need. But right now we're trying to kind of see how it goes, but that's a good idea.
Joanne Powers, I think we just need to go this first time through and see how it goes and then make changes.
Right,
yes,
I agree. Any other, another part of this was that people could call in from the town if they were homebound and say, hey, I'm elderly or I'm ill and I can't come down there and pick up food. And we would have volunteers that would drop off. I call it a ring and run, where you kind of drop something on somebody's front porch, ring the doorbell and run away, So we'll have opportunities for people to sign up for that too.
Sounds great.
Okay. All right. So would it be possible for us to start advertising this tomorrow, Bill? Or do we need a couple, Bob, or do we need a couple days?
No, I think with everything that we went through today with the publicity, I think we're in pretty good shape.
Yeah, we went back and forth on how a ad would run or how we would publicize this. Okay. Anything else?
So
go ahead.
Just a quick question. When would we start for people to start dropping food off?
Monday, week from today.
Okay. All right.
Food would be dropped off Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. And I need an email address for you that's different from your town if you're not getting town email, so I can send to you, Joanne. So if you'd please send that to me so I can make sure you're getting what you need.
Okay, I will do that. Thank you. Either that or Bob can give that to
I
you.
can,
He has
I'll
that.
get it over to you, Kim.
Okay, good. And all right, good.
Thanks, Bob. I appreciate it.
Sure.
Anything, any other comment on this? Okay, all right, terrific. I had just a couple more things, and that is, I think I sent out a couple of us worked on a deer survey that came out to everyone. Were there any more comments on that from anyone? I think if we ever get printers to be working again and we get our crier out, I think we're going to have that included in that. If anyone has any more comments or suggestions, you can send those to, you can tell me now or send them to me or to John Brajowski. Okay, all right, good. The other thing is, what do you think about us starting, if we stay locked down, what do you think about us starting to have some of our committees or commissions meet by Zoom in May?
I'm sorry, could you say that again? Something rang and I missed you.
Yeah,
Sorry, my phone's on mute too, and I don't know why I won't stop ringing. Someone keeps calling. And it's on mute.
Someone's just ringing.
Yeah, sorry. So I was trying to get some of our committees to possibly start meeting maybe in May, like planning or like, I don't know, maybe all of them. I don't know. This is what I want to talk about. So what do you think about having some of our committees or our commissions or all of them, I don't know, to start meeting by Zoom like what we're doing to kind of keep the town running as much as possible and as normal as possible? I want your input on doing something like that. What do you think?
Trish
Okay,
Clunin,
yes.
well, yes. I think everybody's become very, I don't want to say comfortable with the process, but understanding that it needs to be done. And most of us are working together with our families and things like that using Zoom, and hopefully we can get some more communication so we're not at a standstill and it doesn't take so long to, when we are up and running again, to try to get back to some kind of normal.
That's exactly what I'm thinking, Trish. You said that very, very well. And anyone else have,
Joanne Powers. Kim, just for your own information, the library, we did have a meeting last week via everyone's phone, and I think we're going to continue to do that this month for our library meeting. So hopefully that will continue, you know, even though the library is not open. So just to give you some information so that you know we're doing that.
so you would support us maybe having our committees start to meet either using telephone or using Zoom then? That's something that you think would be a good idea? Like in May, like give people some time to, you know, look at it and, you know, not tomorrow, but like start in May. What do you think?
I fully agree.
Okay, all right. Any other comments?
Trish Clunin, my only concern with it is, like, I think I could manage a committee meeting, but I'm not sure that I'd have the skill that RJ has of bringing in public comment and having it available to the public. Will that be an issue?
If need be, we'll make sure that other people are trained. Me included, because I proved to myself this afternoon that I don't know how to set up a meeting yet. So RJ and I will be talking about that tomorrow morning.
Well, Joanne Powers, and I fully agree with that, since I can't even get my town computer to work in my house. So I would have to do it via my telephone as I'm doing tonight.
Yeah, I would be more than willing to, if I have to either train a couple people or, you know, even hop on and for some of the committee meetings do, you know, run point while we're getting that going, that's fine.
Okay.
Well, couldn't we have whoever from town who's, you know, because each meeting we have someone taking the notes and stuff. Couldn't they maybe manage the meeting?
Yeah, we should be able to do that.
Okay.
Okay, Bill, you look like you want to say something.
No, I'm good.
Are you sure?
Hey, Kim.
I'm good.
Hey, Kim.
Yeah.
Who's not surprised about that?
Okay. All right then. Then that will be our goal. And we'll see how much we get accomplished, but at least we have a goal of trying to get some of our commissions or meetings, or like the tech committee is going to be like, oh heck yeah, we're like on this, right? So that there'll be a no-brainer. But then we'll have to work on some of these other committees. So and that. So I just wanted to get that, get your input on that and see what you thought. It gives us a goal. I'd like for us to start moving toward normal, just like Trish said. And I think maybe this is a way to kind of start that process. So that's all the new business I have. Does anyone else have anything? It's a lot. It's a lot. Okay. All right.
I'd just like to say that this went very well tonight. I'm very impressed.
We really did good, I think.
I fully agree. I think for the first time, I think we did a great job.
I think we did too.
Nothing like patting ourselves on the back.
No,
Yes, it was great. Thanks to everyone.
special thanks to RJ.
For
because
sure.
She is like magic, man. She is like, yeah, I'll mute you and I'll mute you and I'll.
Thank you.
And I've only had to call her 3 times.
Only 3. There you go.
They were all reasonable questions.
The training,
so that's okay.
the training sessions were awesome that Bob and RJ did. They were I'd never done this before. They were really good. And I thank you both for easing us into just a whole new thing. So thank you. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Joanne Power.
Okay, second.
Angela
Trish
Wood,
Clunin.
second.
All right. All right.
Blow it now.
Are we good? Is there a comment on the adjournment? All in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? Meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
Take care, everybody. Thank you.
All right. I'm
Healthy.
shutting down the recording. Thank you, everyone.
Good night.
Bye.
Bye.